Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Really glad to have this guy on. His name is Mohamed Salah Tamek, or Tamek. Say your name for me, Mohamed. I want to make sure I say it right.
Yes, it is right. Tamek.
Tamek, okay. Mohamed Salah Tamek. You are the Delegate General of the Correctional and Reintegration Department in Morocco. You actually work for the King of Morocco. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Great, thanks. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, and you're actually in Morocco right now, which is so cool because technology, we can see each other, we could talk to each other. I want to talk about, first of all, you didn't know this, but my father was in the Air Force, and he was in Morocco in the late 50s and early 60s. And he passed away 11 years ago, but he always talked about how beautiful it was, how wonderful the people were, and he always had great remembrances of Morocco. I think, generally speaking, Americans like Morocco. Do you have that same feeling?
Oh, yes, of course. I have always liked Americans, and I know they always liked Morocco.
You know, when
ever since,
go ahead.
Ever since the Second World War, and they get established here in Morocco, in Kenitra, in Ben Guerir, and then other areas.
I think that we don't know that much about the country other than the people are very nice, and it's a beautiful country geographically. It is a monarchy, though, right? You have a king.
Yes.
Okay, but the king also appoints a prime minister. So do the people of Morocco feel a freedom like we would feel here in America, or is it different?
Well, I think that Moroccans feel freedom because they have been living with monarchy for over 12 centuries.
Right.
And for the basic family for four centuries, for the Alawite dynasty. And they think, and I'm deeply convinced that they take it as the main cement that unites Moroccans.
It's an interesting country because it is a Muslim country. I think 99% or 90% plus are Muslim there. Yet you guys do a very, very good job in stopping radical Islamic terrorism. That's not an easy thing to do. When you're a country that is basically based on one religious belief, and the terrorists claim to be of the same religious belief, it's hard to keep them under control because it's easy to radicalize young people. How is Morocco keeping Islamic terrorism under control? You're doing a very good job with it. Why?
For so many reasons. Some have to do with the choice of Morocco. Morocco is applying religious references frame which is based on the Quran and the Sunnah and the Maliki right and the Ash'ari doctrine, advocating mainly interpretation efforts in accordance with the higher purposes of the Sharia, that is flexibility, moderation, and balance, and away from rigor, from excess or extremism, and that helps a lot. And the Maliki right has always shielded Morocco from extremism and tolerant religious-based movements, extremist movements. But of course, after Al-Qaeda, we have the first bombing at Casablanca, and
right.
Ever since we have been facing a few attacks from terrorists. But mainly the ideology has been brought into Morocco. It has nothing to do with genuine Moroccans' beliefs. And then from that time, I think it was kind of a weakness. We have to awake and face this on a multifaceted kind of attacking it. That is, of course, security has to do its work, but also we have to review the religious, all our religion approach. So we started with reforming the preachers and imams and forming them and training them. We have over 47, now it's over 60,000 imams and women preachers who have been trained with moderate Islam. And we have to also, we created the ulama instance of ifta. And another thing that gives Moroccan what I call the summit beforehand is that the monarchy is in Morocco, the king is a dual kind of responsibility. He's the head of the state, of course, politically speaking. He's the one who nominates the head of the government, as we call it now. And he's also the commander of the faithful. That is, he has the last word in the religious approach, and that helps a lot. That is, we don't have so many people giving his fatwas just as they like. So
right.
we have under control this. and we have reformed all of this. In addition to that, we went even further to the school books and things like that, and we made them, we took off everything that is not tolerant or that is teaching a kind of extremism. I think, as I said, it's a manifold approach.
Right.
And I have tried to apply that even in prisons. We have a very unique experience with radicalized prisoners coming from jihadis or Daesh. And we use the experience which we call reconciliation.
Right.
That is, we take people who have chosen to be trained in this. We have prominent professors in religious approach, professors of universities, psychiatrists, and we have a manifold approach of these people. We have started that back in the 2017, and we have done so far 8 sessions with these people, and most of them has been amnestied. Actually, they are the amnesty of His Majesty the King.
So I just want to I want to interrupt if you don't mind. I want to tell people who you are again. Mohamed Salah Tamek. He is the Delegate General of the Correctional and Reintegration Department in Morocco. He is an appointee of the King of Morocco. So if I'm hearing you correctly, and it's a little bit hard to hear sometimes because it's such a long distance thing, but I love that we're doing this. If I'm hearing you correctly, you're taking radical jihadists and you're actually reforming them. Are you finding that you're able to actually take somebody who is a violent follower of fundamental Islam, like the Hadith, and like the violent portions of Sharia law? You're able to take them and make them more peaceful? Really? Does that work?
I think it all depends on actually whether they want it or not.
Yeah.
I think that most these jihadists apply what we call taqiyya, that is, you hide your beliefs. Right. But the main issue of this, for instance, we have done so far over 100 or almost 200 people with this, and 60% of them have been released outside, and no single recidivist so far. Nice. That's an example that shows that it's working. But as I said, it's manifold. It's talking to them, explaining to them the right religious discourse that they need to hear, and they correct their misunderstanding of religion. And then there is a psychiatrist approach also. There is a socio-economic approach to make them, when they go out, they can work and they can be useful for their community. Right.
It is, again, we appreciate the connection from Morocco. It is the Delegate General of the Correctional and Reintegration Department, Mohamed Salah Tamek, who's coming to us right from Morocco right now. You are unhappy, and the king is unhappy with how Germany is responding to Mohammed Hajib. What is the story there? Are they being too easy on this movement? And what is it that you would like to see happen? Because for some reason, Germany is not acting like a peaceful free nation. They're actually giving in to some of the radicalization of this group. Fill me in.
Okay, I'll just give you a few hints. The first one is that I think this problem of Hajib, I never thought that it might be like that with Germany, which is a democratic state and so on and forth. But then when I read a little bit of literature, because I'm interested in this, I found out that actually Germany has actually harbored other terrorists before Hajib. You take Majid from Daesh, you take Samir, the guy who played football with the heads of people, beheaded people. Wow. With that group. And now Hajib, it seems that there is kind of a pattern that is consonant, vowel, Hajib. 2-syllable, Hajib, Samir, and Majid, and before that, Atta and Shi'i, who were you remember the Hamburg cell, which flew two planes into the American centers in Europe. I didn't understand this. Why Hajib? Why Germany should harbor Hajib? Hajib, who says, "I live in Germany. I am a German." And there is no mentor. I mean, the commander of the faithful of the Moroccans is not my mentor. And the monarchy of Morocco should be abolished. That's what he said. Wow. He said, people, you are weak. You are committing suicide. Go and commit suicide bomb and explode yourself amongst them. That is the police and the forces and the police and the security forces. Go and kill them. But isn't that calling for a hate-filled extremism speech?
Yes.
It's not a form of extremism. And I'm a former university professor. So I did some research, and I so happened that on this study by the SWP, which is in German, Stiftung Wissenschaft und Politik, which means, to translate it into English, Foundation for Science and Politics.
Right.
And this is a think tank which has published a study. It's not been published, it has been leaked, about the northern African countries, that is Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. And you know what it says? In a nutshell, it says Morocco has to be stopped.
Wow.
And this is I will give you just the conclusion of the study of this think tank foundation. It says, to counter the feeling of growing uselessness of Algeria, to reinforce the Tunisian economy and relativize the hegemonic ambition of Morocco, and thus reduce the negative dynamic of this rivalry. So I think this is part of what we're saying. And Germany, remember, after the declaration of President Trump, recognition of the sovereignty of the Moroccan over the Sahara. By the way, I'm a Sahrawi, and I know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Just the second, a week after, what did Germany call the Security Council to meet to talk about this? Why Germany? Germany has no borders with Morocco, has no history with Morocco. Why should they actually poke their nose in this? Now we understand why using Hajib.
Yeah, but I don't understand why they would side with Hajib. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's actually very confusing, and I agree with you. Before I let you go, and we've already taken a lot of your time, and I appreciate you. I'd like to have you back on. I know that President Trump recognized the Western Sahara as part of Morocco. That was a very big deal to you, a very big deal to the king, and it was the right thing to do. Now we've got Joe Biden in office. Are you less steady and less firm in your belief that you'll stay safe, protected by your friends in America, perhaps, because of Joe Biden and his weakness compared to President Trump, who was very strong and very behind what you wanted to do?
What President Trump has done to Morocco and to the Moroccan king and to the Sahrawis, especially, and I'm a Sahrawi, cannot be forgotten. It has been the most obvious, open-minded guy I have ever known in history about this issue, which has been lacking. I'm not saying a bad feeling. I think when Secretary of State talked about one prisoner or two journalists imprisoned in Morocco and forgot what's going on in Afghanistan, I think there is a problem with that.
Yeah, I agree.
I wrote to President Biden to congratulate him when he was elected president, because as a student at the University of Delaware, I met him when he was campaigning back in the 90s to be a congressman. And I wrote a letter to him explaining what's happening in the Western Sahara, in the Sahara, the Moroccan Sahara, in Guerguerat at that time, and saying, be careful, you have the Muslim extremists and radicals in Polisario, and Algeria is in them. Yes, I don't feel at ease with what's going on. And I think everybody has seen what's happened in Afghanistan.
Right.
And you cannot be, all people who believe in democracy, in the rule of law, cannot accept things like that.
And I think people like ISIS-K and ISIS and Al-Qaeda, if it were to reband, and even the Taliban, would love to do something bad to Morocco. That's why it's so important that there is a strong, moderate Islamic state like Morocco that understands that, threatening death and actually bringing war and death constantly isn't the right answer. Let me ask you one question on a personal level before I let you go. I'm a Christian guy. Would I be welcomed in Morocco?
You're always welcome in my home. You don't go to hotel.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Mohammed, and I thank you. My father, again, always spoke very, very highly of Morocco and the Moroccan people, and I believed him to be telling the truth, and I'm glad to meet you. Mohamed Salah Tamek, he's the Delegate General of the Correctional and Reintegration Department. He works as an appointee of the King of Morocco. Let's talk again. Can we, Mohamed?
Yes, of course. Anytime you like.
I appreciate you. We're back after this. Stay right here.